Well, hey everyone, I'm so excited for you to meet my friend Sarah. Sarah, hey. Welcome to
Hi.
Becoming. And today you're going to get the opportunity to hear Sarah's story and how she is becoming who God made her to be. And I know this. I'm deeply encouraged by Sarah, and I know you're going to be too. So, Sarah, let's kick it off by just sharing, who is Sarah?
Yeah, so some of the things that I think that I am, definitely an encourager. That's one of the things that the gifts that God has given me, it just like kind of flows out of me. I think I'm also a poster child for the only children. People give us a bad rap and they're always like, but you're the exception. And so I think that I'm the poster child for only children. And I think I'm like a risk taker. So I was thinking about this morning, like I love to do things like skydiving and stepping outside of my comfort zone. And I don't think I've always like noticed that those were risks, but it's just kind of in my nature, but love doing that. Coffee dates are my favorite. Meeting people. Yeah. I love sitting across from people and just being like, kind of like this, being like, what are you doing? How's your life? Where are you going? What do you want to accomplish? What have you accomplished? What have been your struggles? And just really digging in and getting to meet people on a intimate level and just being really intentional. And I love Nashville. That's where I am. It's such a good city. I've been here for 12 years. Wow. So it's like basically home. Yeah. So, I would say that's who I am.
I love it, girl. I love it. So I've had the privilege of hearing your story and the journey that has really made you who you are today. So why don't you just take some time and unpack your story for us?
Yeah. So my story begins from, I've been in Nashville for 12 years, but before that I lived in a small town in Northwest Tennessee. So not too far from home, only 2.5 hours in case I need my parents and get here really quick. But back in my small town, success to me always looked like one of a few things laid out. So it was a teacher, it was banking, it was an attorney in the medical field. So in my head, that's what success looked like. And so I didn't want to be a teacher. Banking wasn't for me. Definitely didn't want to be an attorney. And so the medical field is kind of where I decided to focus on. And so at the age of 11, I just kind of started that journey of making good grades and trying to get into medical school. I mean, at 11, you kind of know what your path is going to be. So I kind of just started down that way, making good grades, honor roll, top of my class, being in all the extracurricular activities, and it paid off. Ended up getting accepted into Vanderbilt University and being a first generation college student, that was awesome too. My parents, so much to thank them for just sacrificing and believing in me and wanting more for me than they had, So went to school at Vanderbilt, still on the pre-med path, psychology major, and just kind of head down. This is what I'm going to do. I know my plan. Got to about my junior year and was like, you know what? Actually, one of my advisors was like, Sarah, why do you want to be a doctor? And I was like, well, I want to help people. I want to I want to be either a pediatrician or dermatologist because I want to have a family eventually. And I want to be able to schedule, my life, and I want to have a good, steady income. And he said, have you ever thought that there are other things that you could do besides being a doctor? And I think it was the first time in my life that someone asked me, what do you enjoy? What do you love? What makes you happy? Because in my head, this is the picture of an 11-year-old that I'd created. And so I really started doing, so my senior year, I kind of took a couple other classes. I started branching out, searching, and I was like, you know what? This is not what I want to do. And graduated. And so my parents were like, okay, well, you're going to have to get a job. You're going to have to do something. So I got a job, and a lot of my friends went the corporate route. And the saying, the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
So I was like, they're doing this corporate thing and traveling for business and all this kind of stuff. I want to try this corporate life. So I worked for a small business for a while and then transferred and went over to the corporate world. And while I was in the corporate world, things were great. I was working my way up, and I hit this ceiling and this wall. And I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think that was never the path that I was supposed to be on, But I think also, that the biggest thing is that mediocrity really set in. So I quit striving for things. I could do my daily tasks day in and day out kind of without much thought and without much effort, and just kind of getting into this routine and the complacency of it. And one of my favorite scriptures is John 10:10. It says, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I came to give life and live it more abundantly. And that more abundantly part, I wasn't living. And that's what we're all called to live. We're not called to live this day in, day out, 9 to 5. Not saying there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5, but just living this life of kind of a robot life. You do the exact same thing. You drive the same route. You buy the same items at the grocery store. You go to the same workout classes, you know. What are you doing outside of your comfort zone? And so I really just began, it was like, God, what? If this is life, this is boring, you know, like I'm a person that has to stay busy because I do get bored very easily. And I was like, there's gotta be more than this. And so one of the things I do, and I always encourage people when you're stuck, I made a list of 10 things that I love. And they were just random things, like literally red lipstick, which I'm wearing today, is on that list. Fresh flowers, volunteering, sunny days, all of these things that I just love. And people are always like, well, what does that have to do with your passion? But when you're happy inside, when you exude that happiness, more happiness comes, and you're able to surround yourself with happy people. So I started just kind of marking things off this list, traveling, volunteering, going down this list. And I started finding myself again. So I always tell people, if you're stuck, make this list of 10 things and just do them. And so on the side of while doing this and making this list, one of the things that was on there is my friends. I love my friends. And so I started making these kind of these schedules, these itineraries for us every single week of what to do. And so this was back before Nashville was the it city. So there wasn't as much to do back then, but there was still plenty. But I would make this schedule every week and send it out. And there were probably 20 girls on this email. And we would meet up. And so there would be dinners, and there would be music activities, and there was just all this stuff going on. And one of our categories was #BOB, which is one of my mottos, balling on a budget. So, you know, when you just graduated college, sometimes you have to ball on a budget. So I just started doing this, and it just came easily to me. And people were like, what's next week? What do we have planned? And I'm like, oh, just wait. I found this thing, you know? And it's just something that I loved. I love scheduling and coordinating and getting people together. And so through that, a friend of mine had asked me, she was like, hey, like, you're really good with like events and planning and scheduling, and would you be interested in planning my bachelorette party? She lived here, and all of her bridesmaids lived in St. Louis. And so I said, of course. And I was like, give me your maid of honor's number. I'll talk to her. I know you really well. I know what you want to do, where you want to go. So I did that for her. It went great. It was so much fun. And then another friend reached out and was like, hey, I heard that you did this for Gabrielle. Like, could you do this for me? And so I was like, sure, like whatever. And people were always contacting me. All of my college friends kind of dispersed across the US. And so they're like, what's the newest restaurant in Nashville? Always asking me things. I've kind of been that go-to person for it. And so then all these people kept asking me to do these things. And I was like, wait, can I get paid to do this? Hear my advice. So my best friend at the time was living in San Francisco, and we would have these night chats. And one night I called her, I was like, so I think I own a business ? Like, it was like, I was like, I filled out all this stuff online, you know, like I have all these forms and tax and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And so lo and behold, I started my first company, Social Bliss Event. And it was just kind of a hunch. It was a hobby. It was something that I loved and I was super passionate about. And I did this while I was still at my corporate job. So I started putting that fire and that passion back into my life and the things that made me happy. And while my corporate job, the more I did my company, I realized that this is what made me happy. And this corporate job wasn't what made me happy. And so I decided one day that I was going to put all my eggs into my company. So for about a year to a year and a half, I poured everything, night, day, into my company. And my goal was to quit my corporate job and be able to do that full time. And so in June of 2015, I was able to quit my job. Yay! And that was the absolute one of the best days of my entire life. Just being able to hit that goal and something that I worked so hard for and see that hard work pay off. And I think one of the biggest things, and my mentor after I stopped, is that mediocrity kind of set back in. I think in life we set these big goals, whether it's go to college, graduate college, get this job, drive this car, hit this number on the scale, whatever it is. And then you do it and you don't have anything else to look forward to. And so that's where that mediocrity, that complacency sets in. So after I quit my job, for about 3 months, I kind of didn't know what to do with myself because that was the goal that for 1.5 years I'd been working towards. And so one of my mentors was like, you need to do something else. You need to branch out. We need to like spice it up somehow. And so I just started working my business really hard. And then 9 months after quitting my job, which sounds crazy, Creative Souls was birthed. And Creative Souls is a community for women to encourage them, inspire them, to equip them with workshops and materials to chase their dreams, and then challenge them and challenge to live above mediocrity. Awesome. And we're located here in Nashville, so we have multiple meetups throughout the month, and then we're also online too. But that community has completely changed my life. And that is what I really feel like my calling is to inspire women and to encourage others. And I think that journey for me really started back in 2013. So God had been asking me to start a small group. And in 2013, I was like, I'm too busy. Fast forward to 2017, 2 businesses later, I didn't know what busy was. So finally, at the end of 2014, I started a small group. And it was 7 to 10 girls, and we were meeting every single Thursday night at my house, and it was so awesome. And at the end of 2014, God was like, you need to deem 2015 the year of courage, and all of you together set goals and have this community and hold each other accountable. So that's what we did. So 2015 was a year of courage, and it was an awesome year. It was the year I quit my job. It was the year I signed up to go on a mission trip to Africa. All of these great things happened, and not in just my life, but other people's too. Wow. And when you start putting people in a room together and where they encourage each other and cheer each other on, great things happen. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that says, without vision, the people perish. And how many of us don't have a vision? We don't have anything that we're dreaming for, or we may have visions and goals, but we don't have any tangible things to actually take the baby steps to get there. So this was a difference maker in my life. So for 2 years, I hosted this group of women in my home. And in 2 years, our lives drastically changed. People moved off. We quit jobs. We started new jobs. We started blogs. So many things happened in this 2 years of these women. That's awesome. And from that, had I never said yes to starting that small group, I know Creative Souls would have never been birthed, because I know that that's where God gave me the confidence and a weekly confidence to come in and encourage these ladies and to prepare lessons and to be able to speak life into them and to be able to support one another and hold each other up. So for Creative Souls was birthed, and that was one of the most awesome things in my life. In 2016, God laid on my life, we all need to pick words, but everybody have their own individual word. So my word last year was faith. And can I just tell you, my faith was tested. And quitting my job, I think, was the beginning of that faith being tested, because when you go from having a steady paycheck every single week and knowing I'm going to make X amount of dollars to I only get paid when I have clients, that's a tough reality. And yes, I had money saved up and was wise about it before I quit. But still, you start watching that bank account going down and like no clients are coming in. And so God was like, I've asked you to do this. I asked you to step out. Are you going to trust me? And for me, that was a big thing, because as a planner, as a control freak, I want to take everything into my own hands, Okay, we can do this, this, and this. But I couldn't control that. And I think for the first time in my life is when I really finally surrendered everything over to him, and to be like, this is all you, because I literally have no control over this. Wow. And so I began to just like dig in and learn more about him and who he is and how he wants good things for us. We hear these things, but we don't know them on a personal level. And then in 2016, one of the biggest things we did is we did a 40-day prayer challenge. And it's the Draw the Circle book by Mark Batson. He writes The Circle Maker. So he does 40-day prayer challenge and doing that little devotional every single day. One of the things I said was, God, I read these stories. I believe in you. Obviously, I know you're real. I read these stories in the Bible. I read these stories in the book, but I need something for myself. I need a firsthand revelation, not a secondhand, not one of my friends telling me what you've done for them. I need a firsthand revelation. And that day, on my 40th day, I actually had this huge, crazy story happen where he just like showed up and showed out. And I was like, okay. And that was where he was kind of like, okay, I've done my part. I've showed you who I am. I need you to keep having faith. And so there were so many awesome things that happened in 2016. I think the biggest thing, faith lesson wise for me, was my dad. So in September, my dad was rushed to the emergency room and really sick, and was actually put on a ventilator for a couple of days. And even through that, I just had to have faith and know, because I think a lot of times in those situations, we have two options. We can choose faith or we can choose fear. And they can't exist in the same place. And that's what I've learned in this journey of becoming myself. I have to know without a shadow of a doubt and be steadfast in my faith, because we speak words of life or we speak words of death. It's one or the other. It can't be a mixture of something. And so last year, my faith has just strengthened so much. And just seeing my dad completely recover, there was just miracle after miracle that happened. When they put the tube down his throat for the ventilator, it took them an hour and a half and 3 different people having to work on him because he was so swollen. And they said whenever he comes off of it, he's not going to be able to talk. He's going to be so sore. He's probably, a couple of days for him to eat, things like that. And so my mom and I just began to pray. He's not going to have any pain. He's not going to have any symptoms. He's going to be completely fine. And the day they took the tube out, he was whispering. And so I had to make everyone get out of the room because he wouldn't quit talking. And he had no pain whatsoever. And within 5 hours, he was eating a sandwich. And so it's just so crazy to see what God can do when we just trust him and when we take his word for what it is and we stand on it and we believe him. After he got out of the hospital, he had to go through the rehabilitation process and just the doors that God opened there. So my dad was going to rehab 3 times a week, and my mom befriended the receptionist and was talking to her and passed out my business cards. Thanks, Mom. And she just told her I lived in Nashville. The receptionist's son just happened to live in Nashville too and was attending a local college here. And through that, we connected, and he asked me to speak at their university. And so just the little things that Genesis 50:20, that what the devil meant for harm, God turns around for good. And it's just amazing how I've developed this personal relationship with him. It's not the relationship my mom and dad gave me or told me I should have. It's not this relationship of what my preacher says I should have. It's a personal relationship with him. And everybody's looks different, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is what works for me may not work for you. This devotion that I get something out of, you may read and be like, that was okay, cool. We're all so unique. And that's what I absolutely love about this. And just being able to watch God just give me the supernatural strength to run 2 businesses because it is literally only in him that I do it. And just the encouragement and seeing Creative Service grow and seeing my event planning grow and being able to be there and to pray over my clients and to pray over my bachelorette. So the welcome bags that I put in their room, saying prayers of protection over them. I think there's this also where this like secular job versus the Christian jobs. And it was something I struggled with for a really long time. But God was like, wherever you are, I can use you. I need you there. I've put you there for a place and for a reason. And so I think that's just been my biggest thing in my story is just developing a relationship with him to trust him and be obedient. I think one of the biggest things for me is that obedience part. So a lot of my friends know, like, I'll just randomly text them and be like, hey, I've had you on my mind. I'm thinking about you. Just here's a verse. Here's words of encouragement. No, I'm praying for you. But I've learned that I get those promptings from the Holy Spirit and I have to act on them. And when we can be when we can be trusted with little, he gives us more. But what happens is when I can't even buy the coffee of the person in front of me, when he prompts me to do that, how is he going to get me to speak to people and to tell others about him? So we have to be trusted in the little things and just overcoming those things and not allowing fear or our past or doubt or insecurity, but standing on his word and taking it for what it is and believing that he is a God of the impossible.
Yeah.
Like coming from a small town girl who thought that this was the only way. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. And to say that that's what I am now, you know, and running two businesses and living this life more than I could have ever dreamed or imagined. It's just so awesome to see like what he's done. And if you're a willing vessel, you know, so I always say have goals, set goals, but hold them loosely because you never know what God is going to fill in with them.
Absolutely.
The things that you want, the jobs that you want, he gives us those dreams and desires, but not to hold so tightly to it. And don't feel like you can't do it, because I'm just a regular old Jane. There's nothing super amazing about me, but I just allowed God to come in and fill me and to use me and to be able to just do the job that he's called me to do, because life is so great. And I feel like I'm over here on the other side of the river and I'm like, everybody come join me. It's so good over here when you start doing what you were meant to do and living above mediocrity and not settling and chasing your dreams. And I feel like that's been my story for the last few years.
So good. I mean, I love all the different points and pieces that you walked us through, and even that obedience piece that you talked about. So recently my dad said the statement that I think you're just going to love. He said, my obedience reveals what I believe about God. And so it's true. Like if we believe in like how we obey God really does reveal what we believe about him or don't believe. So that's huge. And I love the open hands piece too, because you're right. Like we could dream big, but we need to hold it loosely. That's huge. So if you were sitting across from another woman, you're having coffee, you're hanging out, it's probably on an epic outing that you've planned. And you're just encouraging her on her own becoming journey. What would you say?
Definitely choose faith over fear. That for me was it was the game changer. And just not being afraid, because that's what over 300 times in the Bible, it says, do not be afraid. And that's not a suggestion that God gave us. It's a command. And when you look at it like that, like he's told me to do this. And so am I going to obey him or am I going to disobey him?
Yeah.
And disobedience is sin. And when you put it like that, and very frankly, it's like, oh, you know, and that's something we don't want to kind of talk about. You know, we want to kind of justify things and but like, that's what it is. And so he's like, I've asked you to not be afraid, and I've asked you to go out and to do these things. And one of the biggest things I realized is that my obedience, sometimes buying a coffee for someone may not be a big deal. I spent $4 on a coffee for someone, but it may not be about me. It may be about that other person. And if I don't buy that coffee, that might be the thing that they needed to hear that day, to remember that God is good. That might be the thing to know that people are still nice in this world, you know? So it may not always be about you, and you may not be able to see the big picture, but you could be the hindrance for somebody else's blessing. And when you start looking at, hey, my text, 99% of the time I will text people and they respond back and they're like, you have no idea. That is the exact thing I needed to hear.
Wow.
This is going on, or something crazy is going on, or I've been really down today. You know, we get those promptings for a reason. And so you have to act on them. Yeah. But I would just tell them to be courageous, to not be fearful. And one of the biggest things I always tell people is, if you have them, just do it. Send that person an email. Send them a direct message. Hey, I love following you. You really inspire me. Could we get coffee? Hey, would you mind reposting it? Whatever it is. And you know what? If they don't respond, okay, cool. But if they do, look what happened. You know, we get caught up in these what ifs. What if it doesn't happen? What if it works out? Yeah. What if you take that leap and you fly? Yeah. And what if for me, quitting my job, what if I'd quit my job and it didn't work out? That that's okay. I could have gone and gotten another job. I could have done lots of other things, but you know what? It worked out.
Yep.
And just to not be fearful and to not allow those things to just mull over in your head and what if, and just do it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the second piece I would say is to find a tribe, find a community of like-minded women. I'm so grateful for social media and for even connecting us. And I love it. But I also think that you need to have those in-person relationships because your online community can cheer you on. But you need those people that are going to be like, hey, get to the gym. We're meeting here at 9 a.m.
Yes.
You know, you need those people that have been like, you need to work on your business or your side hustle. Meet me at Starbucks. Let's go. You know, you need those people in person to push you and to encourage you. And for me, that was one of the biggest game changers, is having those women around me and that could support me, could speak life into me when I was feeling down, who could encourage me, and that who could be there to cheer me on physically in person, you know? And I think that is just the biggest thing. And to not be scared to having, sometimes I think we get so focused on having one friend. This is my best friend. This is my person. But guys, I have different groups of friends. I have my workout buddies. I have my women-owned business buddies. I have my creative souls people. I have my church people that I go to church with. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All these different people because we're all so unique. And that's the other thing, is to embrace your uniqueness and your individualism. I think sometimes we get lost in the online life and comparing ourselves and, oh, she has this or he has this or whatever, but to just embrace your uniqueness. God created all of us special. And if you, I always say that we're a big puzzle, and all the puzzles are different colors and they're different shapes and they're made up of different pieces. But even if one piece is missing, that puzzle is incomplete. So if you don't bring to the table what God has gifted you, and whether it's to be a stay-at-home mom, be the best stay-at-home mom that you can be. If it is to be a businesswoman, if it is to paint or photograph or to be a speaker, whatever it is, do that and live life abundantly, because we need you and we can't do it without you. Our puzzle is incomplete without you. To embrace that uniqueness and just find people that support you, surround yourself with them, and not be fearful. And to take 2017 like by the horns and just do something this year. Set some goals, some audacious goals. Our God is he's a God of the impossible. Set some really big goals and go for them, and know that things don't happen overnight. We're in this society where we think that things happen overnight. Lose 10 pounds overnight, like become a millionaire overnight, you know? And that's not how it really works.
Right.
But we've kind of like, maybe it'll happen to me though, you know? But to know that it takes hard work and to just baby steps. And if today's not a good day, that's okay. There's always tomorrow. So keep going. Don't give up. Because when you look back, and I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Thomas Edison. It says, if we all did the things that we are capable of, we would literally outstand ourselves.
Wow.
And just think about if you started doing the things that you could do and that you're capable of, all of the things that you could accomplish, you know, the people that you could encourage, the happiness that you could give to others, the happiness that you could have for yourself. So I just encourage you to be courageous, take on some big goals, and just jump off that cliff.
Man, I'm like ready to take on the world. Let's go. So Sarah, if somebody wanted to connect with your business or Creative Souls, how would they do that?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram. It's Creative Souls Tribe. And then Social Bliss Events as well. So you can follow those. My personal one is Sarah Charlotte Patton as well, wherever you want to find me. And then also creativesoulstribe.com and then socialbliss-events.com. So.
Perfect. And we'll have all the links in the post so that way you guys can connect with Sarah. And Sarah, thank you so much for just sharing your story and your journey and just your encouraging words and inspiration. Like, goodness, faith over fear. Obey, take that leap, like, y'all, let's go do this. Let's take on 2017. And I think this will be the best year yet for all of us becoming who God made us to be. So, so thanks, lady. You are amazing.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is absolutely awesome. I love everything that you're doing and the encouragement that you give others, and just presenting these opportunities. What a testament, for what you're doing. And I'm so inspired by you, and just so grateful to have met you.
Right back at you. And I'll see you in Nashville one of these days soon.
Yeah, soon too.
Yes. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.